Okay, you're good to go.
Thank you. So welcome everybody. I'm thrilled to call our July meeting of the Outreach and Engagement Committee to order. And to kick us off, Amber, can you take a roll call, please?
Sure. Ava Bermudez Zimmerman.
Present.
Isha will not be joining us today. Adrian Cochran.
Present.
Sheila has not yet joined us. Molly Weston Williamson.
Present.
And Justin Zartman.
Present.
Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Amber. At this time, I'd like to acknowledge any members of the public who are joining us. I think it's summer, so we've got a lighter public attendance than we might otherwise have, which is great. I hope everyone's at the beach. And with that, I believe our next item on the agenda is review and approval of the June minutes. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Thanks, Ava. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Justin. Is there any discussion on the June minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the June minutes, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions from approving the June minutes? I think you're on mute, Adrian.
Sorry, I'm abstaining because I was not present.
Thank you, Adrian. Any opposed to approving the June minutes? Hearing none, I believe the ayes have it. And we can move on to our set of outreach and engagement updates, starting with Jessica.
Thank you, Molly. Good morning, everyone.
We can see your screen, Jess.
Thank you. All right, so first update for you is just on the fund recovery front. So our notices have gone out, both email and postal mail are being used to the non-compliant employers. As a result, we are seeing a higher than normal volume of contact us inquiries coming into the contact us center. The team is working hard to triage those and working with the finance team as well. So far, no one is feeling worried or overwhelmed by the volume. They are just monitoring and kind of making adjustments as needed. But we just wanted you to be aware that because those have gone out, we are starting to see business employers who receive those notices reaching out with questions. The top reason people have been contacting us is that they close their business with DOL. So they feel that they should not owe contributions, but we are, taking steps to make sure that they understand that they do also have to close their account with us at the authority, that just closing with DOL doesn't automatically trigger closure with us. So we have newsletters going out this week where we'll be including that information to our various audiences, including TPAs, employers. Maddie included it in her legislator newsletter as well. We're also brainstorming ways to reach out to those closed businesses when they close with DOL to just sort of alert them. And we're kind of working through the logistics of how we might like to do that, but that is definitely on the radar. And then we also have some specific language that's going to go up on our Contact Us page, just letting people know some of the steps they can take if they do have an inquiry related to these fund recovery notices to expedite the inquiry and kind of streamline it for our team as well. Oh my goodness, sorry. My slides are crazy this morning. A new meeting that Nancy and I just had this week, thanks to her outreach that we're excited about, was with the Annie C. Courtney Foundation. They run all the virtual webinars for prospective foster parents through DCF. So we had a meeting with them and they are wanting us to do one or several webinars in August for their foster care parent recruiters. And then we also talked through, some of the unique challenges in that often foster care parents might get a call in the middle of the night that they need to take a child in. So they don't always have a lot of, lead time to prepare paperwork and things like that. So what we talked about is creating a toolkit where we can sort of preview for folks, for foster care parents, what information they will need so that if they do get that middle of the night call, they're not sort of trying to gather all this paperwork and get things together in the next day or two when they've already kind of got a lot of other things going on. So we're working on that. And of course, we'll have information in both English and Spanish for this organization. Couple of new upcoming events that we are planning to participate in. Amber has arranged for us to be at the WBDC in New Haven at the beginning of or middle of September on the 13th in a co-working space called The District, and the focus there will be on sole proprietors and self-employed individuals. We also are excited that we're kicking off our library outreach program with the Russell Library in Middletown at the end of September. And then another one that Amber has arranged for us is to be at the Lupus Walk in West Hartford on September 30th. And then lastly, wanted to mention, and again, I want to give credit to Amber. This is her idea and she's kind of spearheading it. We're doing a sort of mini video interview series where the name is still in the works. We're tossing around things like paid leave plus, paid leave in focus, but the concept is that we'll highlight important topics with short interviews, 1 to 3 minutes long, and then slightly longer videos, about 5 to 15 minutes. And we want to feature different members of the paid leave team. So we can really bring people who are subject matter experts in their area into the fold to be able to familiarize the public with them, show the diversity of our team, and really have the people who work day to day with certain areas of our business be the ones explaining the important facts about these. So some topics, and this is not an exhaustive list, but contributions, qualifying reasons, how to apply for benefits, how to file a reconsideration, interactions between our program and employer provided benefits, of course, differences between our program and FMLA, filling out med certs, filling out employment verification forms, and being an advocate. So this is in the early stages. We're just brainstorming with the different departments right now on what other topics they might like to put out there and talk about to the public, and who from each person's team might be the most appropriate spokesperson. So really want to say thank you to Amber for coming up with this idea and spearheading it. I think it's going to take our sort of webinar outreach to the next level with these really easily digestible bits of information for people. And that is what is new in outreach and engagement.
Thanks,
Happy
Jessica.
Happy to answer any questions or direct them to Amber to answer.
Yes. First, I just want to acknowledge that Sheila has joined us since we did the roll call, so that we can add that to the minutes.
Hi, Sheila.
And then I see that
morning.
Ava. Morning,
Good
Sheila.
morning, everyone. Good morning.
I see that Ava has a question.
Jessica, I was wondering for the closures, what's the typical process on our end? And then I had a follow-up question after that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that for what?
The closing of an account when you close your business.
So Erin, would you mind answering that? Because it's more on the back end side that I don't deal with a lot.
Absolutely. So what we have asked employers to do, and this is an FAQ on our website, is that when they close their business, they send us either a copy of the DRS form, that's something like 751, but that they use to notify DRS that they're closed, or to send us a copy of the documentation that they use to notify DOL that they're closed. And then let us know exactly when they closed and in terms of the last payroll date, so that we can make a determination as to when the last contributions are owed, and then basically put their account into an inactive status so that it doesn't show up as being a non-compliant account in the following quarters. We did have a really useful correspondence with DOL because they have actually changed their process. It's no longer paper-based. With their new Reemploy Connecticut, there's a way to submit that. Employers basically submit a notice of closure or end of employment, end of their employer status, and DOL sends them back an acknowledgement. And then that acknowledgement letter is kept in the Reemploy portal. So DOL gave us language that we're putting out to say, if you did this through DOL, this is how you can get access to that documentation so you can send it to us. so that DOL doesn't get overwhelmed with people asking for those same documents. Our hope is to figure out if there's any other ways to streamline this, but it's a little bit tricky. DOL has to keep some businesses open for 8 quarters. So, and we don't want to have to necessarily owe them, have employees be listing as owing. So we're still trying to work through some of the details. But the goal is to be able to put them into inactive status, then they don't show up when we run our reports as non-compliant, so we don't have to send them a notice. And so that's what's happening right now.
That's why I was curious. So, because I knew their system was they transitioned to all electronic, so I was wondering if there was a way to automatically get that, you know, that back end spreadsheet and then pop it into our system, so we don't have lingering open accounts that already been closed on their end. But you answered it with the lingering accounts and the amount of time it might take while they keep it open, so that complicates things.
We are out exploring that exact idea of what can we do, because DOL does share some data with us, and can we automate it so that, or at least put it on an exception basis, so we can say, hey, look, we understand that you appear to be closed. If you aren't closed, you know, let us know. So we're exploring if there's a way to do that, and if there are any pitfalls, which is what Jess alluded to. It's the public has an understandable expectation that agencies talk to each other, and that if you report something to the government will know. In practice, that's not really the way things work, but we're moving toward that process. So that's something we're looking for and hope to be able to simplify for folks. But in the meantime, we're just saying, at a minimum, we won't make you do a new form. Just give us one of the other forms that you gave to, again, either DOL or DRS.
Right. My last follow-up question on this topic. Is it already creating situations where someone overpaid that you have to give back the money?
So not the business closures. Business closures generally tend to be folks who say, why are you bothering me? We're closed. We don't have employees. And we're saying, well, you know, had you told us that in any of the several communications that we reached out to you in the past 3 years, we would have taken you off our list. We do still see overpayments and a need for reimbursement in a couple of situations. One, there's just sort of errors, right? They submit the wrong information, and so they have to submit a new contribution, and then we have to pay back the incorrect one. So refunds will always happen there. As we talked about at the board meeting, we do see private plans that remit contributions to us, which they shouldn't. And so we have to refund that so the employer can send it back to their employees. And we detailed the various steps we're taking to try and put an end to that process, because if you have a private plan, stop giving us money and stop taking money out of your employees' accounts if that's what's exactly happening. And so that's something we're working on both an audit focus and on a contribution policy focus. As the year progresses, we do see situations where employees exceed the Social Security contribution cap. That happens more often. If it's one employer, then the employer tells us there's an error and we work through. If it's because they have multiple employers, the employee has to notify us sort of when they get their W-2s, and then we reimburse the employee directly. So those are the 3 top areas for refunds. And we're kind of working. We'll always have the Social Security cap for multiple employees, but the others we're trying to figure out ways to minimize.
I look forward to the streamlining.
Yeah, me too.
Thanks, Ron. I had a question. I'm not sure if it's a Jessica or an Aaron question. The slides mentioned that because of the increased volume to the United Way contact center, there's a need to to triage and figure out response times. Do you have a sense of how long that is? Is that a like, it takes us 2 weeks to get back to you? Is that it takes a business day? Like what's the, how long are we talking?
Right. So there's two things that are happening. One is that we ask people to reference the fund recovery notice if they submit a contact us. If they reference the fund recovery notice, it goes directly to the finance team, so it doesn't have to go to United Way.
Mm-hmm.
And a large number of people are doing exactly that, which is really, really helpful. But we have, over we have a lot of people responding, and so that team is working through. They're saying it can take up to 2 weeks to resolve a case. They're trying to acknowledge them, say we're working on it, be clear about what additional information is necessary. That's what Jess was referencing, where we're trying to preset some of that information, like, hey, if this is what you're calling about, give us that DOL notice or that DRS notice in your response, and then we can one-touch resolve. So that's just volume. So the things are getting acknowledged, but sometimes resolution can take a while. The other thing that happens is people just go to contact us and they don't sort of use that notice of fund recovery. And so it goes into the general queue. And that's where United Way is triaging it in its normal work. They are also acknowledging as quickly as possible and trying to resolve as quickly as possible. But sometimes the issue is requires a little bit of back and forth to figure out what exactly is happening. So just by way of example, we had a situation, it didn't go through United Way, it was a legislative escalation, but an entity received a notice. And instead of sort of directly responding to the notice, they questioned why they had to do contributions at all. And so, we kind of answered the presented question, and then they weren't happy with that answer because it didn't give them the outcome they wanted. And so we realized, oh, you're disputing the notice because you just had an opposition to the fact that you owe the contribution. So sometimes it takes a little teasing out. So we're working through that. And then the third thing that happens is sometimes things start with finance and then we send them back to United Way because they need just technical help with maybe changing their contact person or notifying us that they're closed. And so we're trying to make sure that our finance team is really focusing their efforts on the calculations and sort of some of the more analytical issues. And so sometimes it's easier to say, okay, and now, our partners at United Way will help you with this very basic thing, just so we can have our specialized staff focus on the difficult stuff and the United Way focus on some of the easier things. So we're using a variety of methods to make sure that we're moving quickly, but sometimes, usually United Way can solve things like with one email, and so the close rate is super fast, and it's just not going to be that fast for a little while.
Got it. And I assume that United Way has a whole lot more people working on this than the finance team.
Yeah, so our United Way, they have a couple of vacancies, but we have the expectation is that we have up to 15 people working at United Way. I think right now they've got 11. Finance, the fund recovery team is sort of all hands on deck, but that's 6. So we have to pull everybody together to make it work.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying. Other questions for Jessica or in relation to Jessica's presentation? Okay, hearing none, I will move us on to, I think, Nancy's our next update.
Happy Thursday, or as I like to call it, a Friday Eve, everybody. So far, the podcast has 2,386 downloads, 546 were in the last 90 days, and 268 were in the last 30 days. I think adding podcasts to our YouTube channel has really helped grow the podcast. And we're just really hoping that when we do start the transcriptions, that will help as well to grow the podcast by accessibility and inclusion and convenience and keywords and SEO. So I really think that it's just going to keep growing. We use our socials as well, LinkedIn, and I put them on all my socials. So we're just going to hope that it just keeps growing and growing. Our locations have grown. Well, the US is number one, obviously, but Germany, Canada, India, Finland, we welcome Finland, and the Netherlands. These are 2 new ones. Vietnam, Singapore, Brazil, the UK, Israel, Poland, Nigeria, and 2 new ones, Australia and New Zealand. So really excited about those. The top apps are our web browser, the Buzzsprout embed player, and Apple Podcast. The top devices used are Windows computers, the Apple iPhone, and then an Android iPhone. And most people listen, honestly, in their car on their phone. That's really how most people listen to podcasts. In the last 10 episodes, the top cities listening, number 1 was Richmond, Virginia. New Haven was number 2. Bristol was number 3. West Hartford, number 4. Bridgeport, and then Frankfurt, Germany. Shout out to Frankfurt, Germany for always being on that list. And during Pride Month, I took a picture in the podcast studio. The guests joined me live were Ace Ricker and Robin McCallan, both LGBTQ educators and advocates. They talked about chosen family. So it was really fun. And I think that's something that I'm going to continue to do is take pictures, and then we'll have pictures of people in the studio. Some come in live and some we do on Zoom. And for July, it was all about the economics of paid leave, and Commissioner Beth Bai of the Office of Early Childhood talked to me about the economic benefits of Connecticut paid leave. One of the things was it saved about 8,000 infant and toddler spaces, and it opened those up for parents who are getting back to work. So it was really interesting. She's so amazing anyway, but I mean, it was really interesting conversation with the commissioner. My next guest, who I am finishing editing right now, is Maya Rawson-Slater. I don't know if you know about her, but she's the associate professor of health policy at Stanford School of Medicine. And she's an incredible researcher, and she's done a ton of articles in conjunction with other authors, but co-authored many articles on paid leave. And actually Jessica read one and she's like, hey, do you think you could get this woman on? So I reached out and she said yes. And so her podcast is going to be so full of really incredible information about the economics of paid leave, how it affects women getting back into the workforce, does it? And then her research, basically, she analyzes the economics of the health impacts and the economic impacts of paid leave. She studies workers and families and employers, so it'll be really, really interesting. And then August, it's going to be all about the benefits of breastfeeding, because it's Breastfeeding Awareness Month and next month. But yeah, if you haven't listened to Commissioner Bai, she's good. If you have any questions.
Thanks so much, Nancy. Maya is an amazing researcher and does
Oh.
fantastic stuff, so that's great to hear. I'm actually curious, some of those really amazing sort of factoids out of the conversation with Commissioner Bai, I wonder if we could get those like up in text, like on Twitter or on social, because those are fantastic statistics. And I think if they're just in the podcast, folks might miss them.
I
So
sent them.
to
Yeah,
look.
I think Jessica and I are working on that, so she can get them up on socials.
Yeah, what we've been trying to do is really integrate Nancy's podcast with our social media and kind of have an overarching theme for each month. So I have been sharing a bunch of facts from many different articles and studies and things about the economics of paid leave. And just yesterday, Nancy sent me some of the quotes from Commissioner Bai. So those will be included throughout the rest of the month too.
And I'll get some from Maya. I don't even know how to choose, but I will. She's just amazing.
That's awesome. I would love to lift up that 8,000 slots statistic. I think that's like,
Isn't that great?
know
Yeah,
it.
it's really
Um,
good.
Other questions for Nancy? Okay, hearing none, I think we're on to legislative updates from Maddie.
Great, good morning, everyone. I just have a really quick update today. Yesterday, as Jessica mentioned, we sent out our July legislator newsletter. It included the link to our annual report, as well as a reminder about our new legislator toolkit that we finalized a few months ago in the spring. It also provided ways to connect directly with us if anyone is interested in meeting one-on-one or coordinating, an event in their district. We also included a reminder about fund recovery as well. As of this morning, the newsletter had about a 29% open rate and a 5% click rate, which is not bad, I don't think, given the time of year and that a lot of people are on vacation. We will also be meeting in the next month internally as a staff to put together a legislative package and start kind of preparing for next session, which starts in February. So that's.
Thanks so much, Maddie. It helps to do the legislative update when the legislature's out of session. Makes things a little more streamlined. Any questions for Maddie? Okay, hearing none. Is there any old business anyone would like to raise? Is there any new business anyone would like to raise?
I just wanted to mention this, I just became aware of it right before the meeting, so it didn't make it into the presentation, but Fran's op-ed about sort of highlighting some of the key facts from our annual report and talking about Connecticut as kind of a national model for paid leave policies was published today in the Mirror. So I will be sending out an email to everybody with a link to that, but just wanted to highlight that.
That is fantastic. And thank you for the link in the chat, Maddie. Any other new business anyone would like to raise? Okay. In that case, do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thanks, Ava. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thanks, Justin. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 I believe the ayes have it. Thanks so much, everybody, and we will see everyone on the next board meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.